Hi, how are you doing? I want to talk to you about today what happens. I've talked about what happens when maybe other vets complain about us or other vets are maybe not nice to us or we hear that other vets have talked about us. So that's another episode on that. But I want to talk to you about what happens when you take over a case where you think the other vet has actually done a really crappy job. So sometimes it happens when, to me, obviously, working in emergencies, I really often get cases from other vets, obviously, because we take in a lot of clients from other practices, and at that hour, it's often not their, I'm not their vet. So I always take cases on from other vets. And sometimes it's a bit disheartening, no, when you when you get a case in and they have just done stuff that you would have done completely differently, and you think the pet has maybe not had the best treatment it could get, no? Like I have like very fixed ideas, for example, around the use of antibiotics. So sometimes when there's a handover and there's maybe been a transfer from an animal that has, for example, diarrhea, and like one of the first medications on the hospital sheet is metronidazole, no? And my nurses now, when they hear that and they look at me, and then they'll be like, "Okay, Gunilla, you really had poker face this time. You didn't pull a face," because I can't help it. It's just something I don't agree with. But also, whenever we have cases coming in, I was just trying to think like, what are the worst cases I've come in? I think one was an animal that was, and you have to bear in mind when I have cases coming in during the night, I actually don't have the history in front of me. I just have whatever the owners tell me. So we always have to take what the owners tell us with a pinch of salt, like a shovel full of salt, right? Because first of all, it's in the middle of the night in my case. They are like worried, they haven't slept. So whatever they're telling me, like half of it is probably not true because that's just whatever they think it is in that moment. But there was an animal where they brought the medication with them, and it was literally, I think it was prednisone and meloxicam at the same time. The animal was on both. And now what? Like, how do I how do I put across that this is not something we would normally do without throwing the other vet under the bus? Because I don't know what happened. I don't know if the other vet said, "Look, you need to stop these, whatever, and then you can start these after 48 hours like we would normally do." I just don't know. So I was trying to ask them a bit. So when did you start? Well, how did you do, and just in my brain trying to figure out like, why would the vet do this? And it really literally sounded like the vet had put them on both. And all I could say was like, well, it's not something we would normally do. They must have thought, like, what do you say? No, like they must have thought there was a lot of inflammation in the body, so they decided to use two differently ones. But let's stop them now just in case, no? And and what I want to bring it back to is that, like I spoke to in another episode about being accepting of what we have in front of us. And we've got to accept that, first of all, every vet has not got our same idea of what's right and wrong. As much as we have a code, and as much as I think anybody, just like if I say, if you're thirsty, drink water, it's as clear to me that when you have steroids, you don't use NSAIDs. It's like they don't go together. No? I think there was another one as well that had like diarrhea. It had some sort of gastroenteritis, some sort of disorder, and they put it on meloxicam. And now again, I'm like, how do you? So there are some things where we are like, but this is black and white. There's just no way around this. Like, how could the other vet do this? Okay, but we also have the fact that we don't know whatever the owners tell you, and sometimes the history, even if you have access to the notes, right, in consult, what the other vets wrote, you don't know what was behind everything. Like you weren't there with them in consult when they had that discussion with the owner. So if I can stand here and rant about like rage against vets that use this too much metronidazole, but also I don't know if this was maybe a very young, insecure vet and the owner was really bullying them into using antibiotics and they decided to choose their battles and just give the bloody dog antibiotics. No, so I don't know. And and I think it's important that we give the other vets the benefit of the doubt. Like, and I believe, like, I think we should always give the vets the benefit of the doubt. We should never throw anybody under the bus. We should never say, "What the fuck did you vet do? What is this?" Like we should always like remain curious, remain open, and always, I won't say cover it up, but I guess it sounds a bit like that. But I would always find a very diplomatic way to say to the owners, how the situation has changed. How about we stop this now, like in a sort of way, and then the vet can deal with whatever they want to deal with afterwards. No, um, because we just don't know the chain of events that has led up to the decision that the other vets have made. And you have to think about, how would you like, if you made a mistake or you fucked up or you were distracted and you somehow ended up prescribing steroids at the same time as the dog is in Metacam, because it can happen if they don't. I sometimes like literally will go, it's a dog on any medication. No, no, no. It's this and the other. Okay, well, it's limping. Let's give it a shot of Metacam for tonight and see how it gets on, rather than inside. And as I'm approaching the dog with the syringe, I'm like, again, like, so he's not taking anything. Oh no, just those, like, he is on that thing for his limping, and it's like Metacam. And I was just about to give him another dose of Metacam. So sometimes we don't know the whole story. We don't know the decisions behind the vets, and we don't know what the owners have told them. And we don't know, like, we just don't know anything. So I really, really want to encourage everybody to not throw anybody under the bus. Like, never speak negative about your peers to the owners. Never start blaming them for something that happened, because we just don't know the reasoning. And I would personally, if I've made a mistake, I would really, really, really hope that the vet that maybe comes after me can say, oh God, she made a mistake, but not let's cover up the mistakes he made, but also not throwing me under the bus, and make the owners really mistrust me, because then we also putting at, like, I need a mistrust to the profession, and nobody knows, like, why we make the decision we make. Even if we write good notes, we don't always know, right? um what was the other thing I wanted to say? Okay, and then sometimes there is a case where it's just not a mistake, like we think that something has really been missed. No, we think that, like, I sometimes have, and I think especially when I was in Spain, I had clients that swore to these, like, really old vets, like really old school vets, that were like, there was one Danish vet where I came from, where he was like, oh, I went out to see a horse and it kicked me in the face and I just stitched my own jaw up, like, kind of vet, and everybody just loved him. And when I did, can't remember if I told this story before, but I did my practice, like, what do you call it? I did practice with him. So when I was still in school and high school, I would, because he was Danish and I was in Spain and I'm Danish, it was kind of cute to go to his practice and learn with him. And there was a lot of things that I would never do. And I took my dog to get castrated with him, and he gave it intratesticular lidocaine, and my dog woke up screaming under the anesthesia. It was such a shit show, and I was like, oh, is this normal? Like, I was young and stupid, so I didn't know any better. But and he kept working that way. There was a point where he actually went to, anyway, I won't say too much, because in case he's still alive, I don't think he is. But anyway, that was some. So when you hear about these things and the clients come in and you are like, oh my fucking God, what is this shit show? But the clients swear by this vet. This vet is God. Like, you know the kind of clients. No, they love this vet because this vet is so mundane and so, like, cool, and doesn't want all that faff. And the clients genuinely believe that their animal has had the best treatment. And you look at the notes and you're just like, I don't know how this dog is not dead with what is done, or what they missed. Why does this vet not believe in imaging? And then you feel super disheartened, right? Because, and it's like, oh God, you can't. How do you help this animal now? Balancing also not trying to, like, even if we were so angry at this vet for doing a shit job, even if you were to rant against them and didn't care about throwing them under the bus, the client is gonna not believe you, and now they're not gonna follow anything you say, because they trust this other vet, and now you come raging against them. Well, but you're this young smartass, so you don't know anything, because this vet has got much more experience than you. So you are really in a hot place, right? You are in a place where you can't really backtrack on what the vet has done. You have no choice but to work on what has been done so far, and you can't really say anything bad about the vet, because all it's going to do is to make the clients, now they're not siding with you, now they're opposite you, because they're siding with their own vet. No, so in these cases, it's really important that you got to take a breath. You got to accept that this is what you've got right now. And you could potentially, if you think the vet has really done like something incredibly serious, like that goes against code of conduct or whatever, I guess you would have to put in a complaint. If you think, like, you would have to speak to your like whatever Royal College or whatever you have in your country and say like this vet is like literally, and you have the proof, no, if they are putting pets in danger, no. But for the client, it's not always possible to do that. You have to think of what is the best interest of the pet right now, right? You got to think about what can I do with the shit show I've got right now and move on from there. And it's likely not going to be an ideal situation, right? If they have given a ton of steroids and it turns out the dog's got bloody scabies, or, just a sarcoptes, or if they have given, like a ton of antibiotics and now there's resistance all over and you can't culture anything, right? I don't know, like or this vet that gave steroids and meloxicam at the same time, which I hope is a mistake and not something they did on purpose. Now you have like severe gastroenteritis, HGE, maybe a stomach ulcer. You just got to work with what you got now right now. And that's why it's really important to be able to, one, manage your emotions. So even if you feel like there's a lot of rage, frustration, feeling powerless because you've been put in a situation that's really difficult and it's not your fault. And at the same time, be able to like manage that, process that, seeing I notice I'm angry, I notice I'm frustrated, I know this is not how it should be, but this is what we got right now. Like be able to like process those feelings and sit with them. I notice I'm tense. I notice, just go out for 5 minutes to like find a quote unquote thermometer or something. And then also take yourself through like that inner journaling. Like this is what I've got right now. What is the best thing for this pet right now? How can I support these owners going forward, considering they were dumped in the shit by this vet without them knowing? And what can I work on? And also knowing that you might not even be able to help this pet, right? Because if they've done a really shit job, let's say it had a foreign body obstruction and they have not done any imaging and they're just giving it metronidazole, and now this cat or dog has got like perforating foreign body in the intestines and they're going into sepsis. No, you might not be able to help it. You might have to put it to sleep, but you still got to look at whether you then take this other vet to court or whatever you do, but you've got to look at this is what I've got right now. How can I alleviate the suffering? How can I support this animal with what it is that right now? Just as if the owners were dipshits and had left it too long. No, they've left it over the weekend because they didn't want to pay emergency money and they have just left it. It's exactly the same situation. No, like you've been put in a difficult situation. It's quite hopeless. It's quite impossible. It's due to some other people not doing what they were supposed to do. And this is what you got right now. And how can you work with it? And then you got to not beat yourself up afterwards and not have all the if only, right? If only this vet hadn't done this, if only they had like done whatever, if they had just, if the only the owners didn't hadn't taken them there, or why did they take it back to that vet when it wasn't any better, all this why. It's just not something you can use in that moment. So it comes back to accepting what you're in. And again, it doesn't mean that you agree with what's happened at all, but accepting it. And is it worth me now standing here ranting that the other vet is shit? Or is it worth just going, this is what we got right now. Let's just, and not comment on it and then decide later on what do you want to do about this other vet that maybe needs dealing with. No. I'm saying this case and like gross misconduct, like really negligent or really old-fashioned, not done things right at all. Not in the case of a little mistake, which is completely different. No. Um, and I just think it's really important that we think about how we would like to be treated by our peers. And there's a bit of overcoming our own ego here as well, right? Because it can be tempting, depending on where you are. If you're feeling a bit low in your confidence, or you feel you need that external validation, and I mean, bless you, we all do, right? We all have that inner ego, but the ego is a bit stronger when we don't feel calm and confident and trusting ourselves. Then there can be a bit of wanting to validate our ego by pointing out that this vet has done not a great job and I can do better kind of way. And I know we don't do this on purpose. I'm just saying to watch it. If you're in a place where maybe you feel a bit like you could do a bit of a pick me up and feel better, like in the long run, you're never gonna feel any better by pushing anybody else down. So if you notice that your brain wants to kind of point out what this vet has done wrong, and so you can like look like the smart vet here, like check that ego and check that where is that coming from. When I say ego, it's not like like you're an egoistic person and you like think you're the best. It's more, it's the contrary. It's you're in a place where you're not grounded and resting in yourself. You don't trust yourself 100% as a vet. You maybe don't feel that confident. And then you have that need to show it. Now, I notice now, for sure, I can't remember like even when I was younger, it's so long ago now, but for sure, like the confidence I have in myself as a vet combined with the tools as a coach. So I have that emotional awareness now where I'm at, and and I'm more than happy to say, oh shit, I fucked up, or I'm happy to say I don't know this, like, or this is the first time I see this, let's see if somebody else know about it, because I feel okay with not being perfect. I feel that's what it is, right? Coming back to being okay with not being a perfectionist. So if you really struggle, you feel like you should be more perfect, you feel like in order to be a good vet, you need to be perfect, then you will want to show how perfect you are, and you will also want to point out where other vets are not perfect. And it's really important that we get over this, because nobody's perfect and we all make mistakes, right? And you want to check that ego if you have that tendency to want to point out where the other vet has maybe not done very good, because then you can show how good you are. And I know nobody does that intentionally, but it could be a tendency if we're feeling a bit low and we need to feel validated, no? Um, so that's it. So yeah, so acceptance when a case comes in that's been fucked up by another vet, and this is what we got now. Not throwing others under the bus, and I guess so. Tools for not lying to the client, but also maintaining a certain level of professionalism, being able to do your job, accepting that the other vet has maybe not done the greatest job, but there's probably a mistake somewhere that we don't know, or there's a misunderstanding from the owners. So the tools I use is like they're all super diplomatic. So a good one is for example, this doctor came in with steroids and NSAIDs on top. And I was like, well, we normally don't do this, but maybe the vet thought there was a lot of inflammation. Even I know I'm talking about bullshit, but it's kind of like a way to explain, I wouldn't normally do this. Maybe there's a reason. I don't know. I wasn't in the consult with you, but how about we stop it now? And then you can discuss it again when you see your vet on Monday or whatever. I know. So also like the situation has changed. So for example, if somebody has given an NSAID for gastroenteritis and you're like, what the fuck? And they are like vomiting and diarrhea all over, you can say, yeah, I mean, the situation has changed now. They're definitely worse. I think we should take this away now. So that's a way to do it really diplomatically as well. So saying the situation has changed. What I see now is different from what your vet saw when they first prescribed this. So I think I'm going to change a few things around, or the symptoms have changed. So now it's clearer to us what it could be. So now we maybe have a more appropriate treatment that your vet would have known about in that moment, because the symptoms weren't that clear, even if you think they were, you know. So there are ways to be diplomatic in a way that puts you in a place where you can work from without having to say anything negative about the other vets. So being diplomatic, finding ways around it, not wanting to make yourself feel better by pushing anybody else down, and also that acceptance and getting over that powerlessness and disheartening we feel when maybe another vet has done a really shit job and didn't care, almost negligent. Like sometimes that it's few, luckily it's few and far between, no, but in that moment we've got to think about what's best for the pet, and then we can address the whole misconduct or whatever afterwards, no. So that was it. I just wanted to support you a bit in case that's happened. I've spoken to a few vets it's happened to, and it's a bit like, oof, like we should do better and all this. And yeah, we're also all humans, and it could be that the other vet, I don't know, like we're all struggling, aren't we? So it could be like that vet has got some sort of depression and anxiety and can literally not think clear. If it's a woman that might be in perimenopause, I'm telling you, that brain fog is no joke, right? So, and then also the fact that often owners, I told you that when we remember something, our memory get hugely affected by things that happened between, since the event happened, like whatever the vet told them until now, every time they have remembered that conversation, the brain will have modified the memory a bit. So they might literally be lying to you and not knowing it. They think they're telling you the truth, or they're telling you what they think is the truth, and it's actually completely far away from what the vet actually told them. And I have seen this because I've had patients coming in at night, and I have access to the notes, so they're from my same hospital, And they will tell me something. Well, the vet told me to stop the antibiotics, and I can't see it in the notes. And I'm like, well, maybe it was a phone conversation. And then when next that handover, I meet that vet, and I'll be like, oh, such and such told me that you said to stop the antibiotics. I thought it was a bit weird, and they're like, no, I didn't tell them that. They misunderstood it, right? So, and the owners can tell me, I tell me straight to the face, and they're convinced that's what the vet said. So you have to remember, don't get annoyed at the clients either, because pet owners can be really stressed when the vets are telling them something, and then when they recall it again and again, like that memory can literally change. And we can see it as well when we see a couple, right? Because we have like the husband and wife, and they sometimes tell me completely different things, and I'm a bit like, were you at two different clinics when this happened, or what's going on? No. So it's like learning to keep under control that frustration, that rage, that hopelessness we sometimes feel when other it seems like other people have not done a good job, and just focus on what's good for the pet right now, and be able to that duality of handling both things at the same time, and also knowing that, like, I get it's hard, I get it's like being put in a spot that's not very comfortable, where you feel like, how do I move on from this, without saying anything bad about the other vet, but still look out best for what's best for the pet. No, but it is possible. You just need to keep your emotions in check, and keep your motive and your priorities in check as well. So that was my little rant for today. I'd love to hear what experiences you have had like this with other vets, and have a discussion about it. Feel free to email me. Also, right, you can also respond via the questionnaire in the podcast notes, and check out my website www.gunilalifecoach.com. There's a ton of resources. I've uploaded all my blog there as well. You got the link where you can see more about the Happy and Vet Med course, and free resources, and so on and so on. So check that out, and thank you for listening. Have a lovely week. Bye.